Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of Commander Claw. I'm going to get straight into it. You've probably seen this commander from the Duskmourn spoilers, and it is crazy. It is called the Mind Render for 3 blue mana. Let's see, it's a legendary enchantment creature, Nightmare, on a 10-1 body. It says the Mind Reader can't be blocked. Then it says, if a source you control would deal damage to an opponent, prevent that damage, and each opponent mills that many cards. Well. I have some pretty cool ideas just for you. So the next slide is just going to be a bigger font for you to read the commander. Yeah. While you reread the Mind Render can't be blocked, if a source you control will deal damage to an opponent, prevent that damage, and each opponent mills that many cards, it's going to be a mill deck, right? So you got two types of ways of building this commander. I'm definitely thinking Voltron, and definitely the first set of win cons, I'll tell you, will be described right after the must-haves section. Must-haves. These are auto-includes in this deck, and they may not be budget-worthy, but they work, right? They work. Let's get right into them. The first card, you already know this guy, Bruvac the Grandiloquent. For 3 mana, he's a 1/4 body human advisor legendary creature. He simply says, if an opponent would mill 1 or more cards, they mill twice that many cards instead. So this effect, if you hit your opponent with the Mind Render for 10, your opponents are milling 20 cards. Disgusting. On to the next. You got to add Maddening Cacophony. For 2 mana, it's a sorcery. It says each opponent mills 8 cards. Okay. It has a kicker cost for 4 mana, 3 and a blue. If this spell was kicked, instead, each opponent mills half their library rounded up. The reason why you want this card is because it makes the game strategy half the battle. So that way, if everybody starts with 99 cards, they are going down to 54, I believe. Actually, it's less than that because they drew 7 cards already. All right, moving on to the next card. Okay, we have Roaming Throne. If you don't know what this card does, it's pretty pricey. It's from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. For 4 mana, it's an artifact golem creature on a 4/4 body with Ward 2. He says, as Roaming Throne enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. You're going to choose Nightmare for your commander. Roaming Throne is the chosen type in addition to its other types. If a triggered ability of another creature you control the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. Yes, so when you do the triggered ability of of the Mind Render is going to trigger 2 times. Now remember, the Mind Render says if a source would deal damage, your opponents mill that many cards. So yeah, if you hit somebody with a 4/4 creature, bam, your opponents are milling 8 cards total, each one. Disgusting. Moving on to the next card. All right, this is where it gets interesting. Sakashima the Imposter. For 4 mana, is a human rogue legendary creature on a 3/1 body. As Sakashima the Imposter comes into play, you may choose a creature in play. If you do, Sakashima comes into play as a copy of that creature, except his name is still Sakashima the Imposter. So, and it's still legendary, and it gains tap 4, 2 blue and 2 colors. Return Sakashima the Imposter to his owner's hand at end of turn. So, you have to keep in mind, this is a mono blue deck. Mono blue deck. So I should have said that in the beginning, but it's mono blue. So when you play Sakashima and you copy the Mind Render, the legendary rule does not apply because Sakashima is still named Sakashima the Imposter. Okay? So now you have 2 times the effect when your commander, the Mind Render, is out and Sakashima's is out on the battlefield. Yeah, that's twice. Moving on to the win con. Okay, so the main strategy here, I've slightly introduced it with Sakashima, is to clone. Make more copies of the Mind Render. So your nightmares become more nightmares upon more nightmares upon more nightmares. It gets ridiculous. So let's win by creating clones. All right, we're back to Sakashima of 1,000 Faces this time for 4 mana. Legendary creature, human rogue on a 3/1 body. He says, or she says, or whatever it says, you may have Sakashima of the 1,000 Faces enter the battlefield as a copy of another creature you control, except it has Sakashima of the 1,000 Faces' other abilities. The legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. That is super important. You know why that's super important? Because we're going to copy more legendary permanents that, oh yeah, like your commander. We want to copy your commander. All right. What cards make these copies? There are going to be a lot of 3 CMC, 4 CMC cards that are out there. If you never played a mono blue deck, yeah, that's what blue does. It usually does cloning, card draw, counters, but we're going to focus on making copies of it. So let's do it. First card we have is Mirror Maid. Now keep in mind we want Sakashima out, so our legendary permanents. So the legendary rule does not apply. So hopefully we have three copies of the Mind Render, or at least 3 of its triggered abilities, right? So whenever you hit somebody with a blue source that deals damage, it's going to do it 3 times. So yeah, for example, you swing with your commander because it can't be blocked, and you got 3 of these bad boys out here. Your opponents are milling 30 cards. And also note, Mirror Maid says you may copy an artifact or an enchantment. Your commander, the Mind Render, is an enchantment creature. Moving on to the next card. Oh, you already know. The Mirage Mirror, low CMC artifact that is disgustingly powerful. Literally tap 2. Mirage Mirror becomes a copy of target artifact, creature, enchantment, or land in turn. Easy as that. Easy as that. You still need Sakashima the Imposter out, but the legendary rule doesn't apply. Moving on. All right. I like this card a lot. It's called C Double. It is an instant for 4 mana. Remember, we're playing mono blue deck. This is a mono blue deck. This spell can't be copied. And it says choose 1. If an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, you may choose both. Okay. So since we are in a mill deck and we made our opponents mill through, the Mind Render or other effects, most likely we can be able to choose both of these effects. So anyways, the effects are copy target spell. You may choose new targets for the copy, and also create a token that's a copy of target creature. Oh my gosh. So this is a sneaky instant speed way of putting out another copy of the Mind Render on the battlefield. So hopefully we can have 4 of them out there. So whenever an opponent is dealt damage, they're milling 4 times that. All opponents. So we can get to 100 cards easily. If you don't know by now, that's really the challenge. How can you mill someone? Actually, it should be like 92 cards, because after 7, you drew the cards in the hand. Yeah. How can you make opponents mill that many cards? It's possible. You just need to make clones. Moving on to the next card. We have Court of Vantress. This is my favorite copy effect. For 4 mana, it's an enchantment that says when it ETBs, you become the monarch. If you don't know what the monarch is, it is a emblem like a crown, right? And it says at the beginning of your end step, you get to draw a card if you are the monarch. But when you take damage from an opponent, they become the monarch. All right, back to Court of Vantress. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, choose up to 1 other target enchantment or artifact. If you're the monarch, you may create a token that's a copy of it. If you're not the monarch, you may have Court of Vantress become a copy of it, except it has this ability. Remember, the Mind Render is an enchantment. So if you are the monarch, you just get to create a token copy. So you get an extra token copy of the Mind Render when you are the monarch at the beginning of your turn. So that makes 2 Mind Renders on the battlefield. I would like to say if you're not the monarch, the Court of Vantress can become your enchantment. So you don't get up +1. You just stay neutral. But I had to give you a backup card for the legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. And we have the Mirror Box. The Mirror Box, this is the best thing about the Mirror Box. The legend rule doesn't apply. Use it and abuse it when you make this Attack of the Clones win con strategy. Straightforward, nothing else needs to be said. But I do have a bonus card for you. I don't think most players or even EDH Rec would add this card to this deck because they don't think like you. They don't think like me. We're all in the hive brainstorming. So what card could this be? Stuffy Doll. What does Stuffy Doll say? It is a 5 CMC artifact creature construct on a 0-1 body. It is indestructible. As Stuffy Doll enters the battlefield, choose a player. Choose somebody you hate the most. Whenever Stuffy Doll is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. Stuffy Doll deals 1 damage to itself. Okay, so you pretty much can use Stuffy Doll as a blocker. So whenever an opponent attacks you, block with Stuffy Doll, and that opponent that you chose is going to take that much damage. And guess what? If you have your commander out, everyone is milling that many cards. Disgusting. Disgusting. Now, what else I like about Stuffy Doll? Let's say your opponent plays Star of Extinction or another burn spell that deals damage to all creatures. Stuffy Doll is going to take damage, right? But that chosen player also takes damage. And you can still make all your opponents mill that many cards. Because the Mind Render second ability is a state-based action. So it will still be on the stack by the time it dies. Moving on. Okay.
50 likes. I will post the deck list because I know y'all want to see it. I know y'all want to see it. I need y'all to show some love because I'm trying to show y'all some love.
Okay.
But if you like this video,
moving on.
I got more videos coming up.
Okay. Yeah, so we're back, right? I probably mentioned Voltron build. That means you attach as many equipments as possible to the Mind Render and abuse the Mind Render's ability. Let's talk about these equipments. The first one. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I just want to remind you what the Mind Render has. The Mind Render can't be blocked, okay? So you don't have to worry about blockers. It's unblockable. Then remember, it is a 10-1. It might be weak, but it's super powerful. Okay, let's go. The first card we have is Excalibur, Sword of Eden. I believe this is from the Assassin's Creed set, Universes Beyond. For 12 mana, is a legendary artifact equipment. It says, this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of historic permanents you control. Artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic. Then it says equip creature gets +10/+0 and has vigilance. Equip legendary creature for only 2 mana. That is crazy cheap. Crazy cheap. You already know you're gonna have a bunch of artifacts, mana rocks on the battlefield, treasure tokens on the battlefield that you control, or even the small legendary creatures. So don't flip out about 12 mana. And for all you gotta do is get it on the battlefield. That's it. So when you play it and equip it to the Mind Render becomes a 21 body. So if it deals commander damage, which it wouldn't, it's just going to make your opponents mill 20 cards. Now remember, if you want to make a clone of it, they probably will mill 40 cards. Yeah. So overall, it is possible to mill someone 90 plus cards in a couple of turns if they do not have answers. And remember, you're playing blue. You're going to have counter spells. You'd be crazy not to. Now, while your commander is sitting at 21 body, you can play Sure Strike Trident. And if your opponents do not have an answer because your commander's been on the battlefield, you can equip this artifact equipment to it. It says your equipped creature has first strike and tap. Unattached Sure Strike Trident. This creature deals damage equal to its power to target player. So, yeah. I would like to think that if you had the Excalibur sword still attached, that means your Mind Render has vigilance. So it does not have to tap to attack, right? So you attack, you make opponents mill 20 cards, then you tap the Mind Render and unattach the Trident to deal another 20 damage to a player. Then all your opponents will have to mill another 20 cards. That is 40 cards. That is 40 cards. 40 cards, people. That is a lot. And if they don't have answers, the game is over. Moving on to the next card. Inquisitor's Flail. It's an artifact equipment for 2 mana. Super cheap. Low end CMC. If equipped creature would deal combat damage, it deals double that damage instead. Oh, we doubling the damage, y'all. Doubling the damage. We're making it a 21 body out here. If another creature would deal combat damage to an equipped creature, it deals double that damage to an equipped creature instead. Equipped to. Don't even care about the second ability. Your commander is weak. So dealing 1 damage, okay, whatever. Whatever. You're on the aggressive with this commander if you're doing a Voltron build. And equip 2, super low cost. This is, you can play with a nice pace with this commander and this equipment. Like I mentioned, you're doing at least 20 damage if this equipment is attached to your commander. I mean, dude, I don't even know what else to tell you. Get it. I think this is a budget card, honestly. It's not that expensive. Moving on. Okay, there's another Assassin's Creed card. I don't even know how to pronunciate it. If somebody can write the phonetics down in the comments below, please do. Mjolnir, Stormhammer, for 4 mana, legendary artifact equipment. When it ETBs, attach it to target legendary creature you control. So it's an automatic equip for 4 mana. Ooh, oh my gosh, come on. You can play on curve with this. Then it says, whenever the equipped creature attacks, tap target creature defending player controls and put a stun counter on it. Then Mjolnir deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of tapped creatures that opponent controls. Okay, let's break this down. So let's say you attach it to the Mind Render, right? You attack with the Mind Render. You tap a creature that an opponent controls. It puts a stun counter on it. A stun counter makes that creature unable to untap during their next player's untap step. That's it, just 1 time. So you need to add more stun counters to do it multiple times. Okay. Then this source, which is Mjolnir, will deal damage to each opponent equal to the number of tapped creatures that opponent controls. So it's at least 1 creature that's going to be tapped. All right. If they have more creatures that are tapped, there's possible combat scenarios where they can have multiple creatures tapped. This can be really abusive. Really, really abusive. So if you want to be a little creative and tap all those creatures for your opponents, you can use Cone of Cold. For 4 mana, it is a sorcery. Roll a d20 dice. 1 through 9, you tap all creatures your opponents control. Okay, so somebody flooded the board with a huge wall of squirrels, lizards, otters, artifact constructs, all that going wide bullshit. You can literally tap all the creatures and focus on them, right? So that way, all those creatures that they have tapped with, let's say it's 15. Oh, the Mjolnir Stormhammer is dealing 15 damage upon attack. Then you're doing at least 10 with your commander. That's 25 damage right there. 25 cards. Each opponent will be milling. You don't tell me that's not nasty. Tell me that's not nasty. Okay. Yo, thank you for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if there's other ways or other cards that can help you build this commander. It just came out, Duskmourn, House of Horrors, something like that. I think it's a really cool set. I only looked at like 2 of the spoilers. I like that red, black demon, elder demon thing. That's pretty cool. But also feel free to comment and let me know what other commanders you would like to see. But don't forget to hit that like button, because after 50 likes, I'm going to give you the deck list for the Mind Render. And stay tuned for the next video.